Speakers, microphones, and cameras. Welcome back to Sound the Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another episode. And in today's video, we will be reviewing round six. Plenty of blowouts that we'll get into, and particularly our team, Zave.
My team was a little bit more impressive this week than yours. I know we'll get into it a little bit later on, so I don't want to say too much yet.
The first game was the Bulldogs and the Giants, and the Bulldogs, no holes to pick from me. They're top of the ladder. They remain undefeated, and Jack Macrae probably emerging with another 3 Brownlow votes.
Three,
Yeah, 40
there were
touches.
some pretty good games. Yeah, he was very good. I probably would give him the 3 votes. He kicked the goal as well, which was a very good one. But I think the number one takeaway I had from this game was the Bulldogs won by 39 points, but I think it was a lot closer than that.
Yeah.
I think it was only a couple of points at three-quarter time. Yeah, I think only 2 points. I think GWS were really good up until the fourth quarter, and we're so used to seeing such good games from these two teams when they meet up. And I think the Bulldogs stood up again, and it was the usual suspects. Bontempelli was incredible again. Jack Macrae was incredible again. Liver was good. Adam Treloar was good. And Josh Dunkley as well, who the big news came out. He's out for, I think, 3 months, 16 weeks, or 3 to 4 months, 16 weeks. That's really, really sad considering he was really, really flying and was looking on track to be an All-Australian. So it looks like he might miss out on that, but hopefully he's all right for the finals, and hopefully the Bulldogs get him back at full fitness so they can look for their grand final push.
And in all sports, really, injuries just ruling them all. AFL, the NBA, there's been plenty, and it's hard to watch, hard to take in as a supporter, and I wish we could just disable them, but unfortunately we can't. But yeah, the Giants, as you mentioned, weren't as bad, and they had 10 players with less than 20 games of experience compared to the Bulldogs' 2 players with less than 10 games of experience. So a valiant effort from an undermanned Giants side, and it was definitely closer, as you said now. The next game was definitely not close, and the Cats blew away the Eagles by 97 points.
Yeah, I didn't actually get to watch all that much of this game, but from everything I've seen, the Geelong absolutely blew them out of the water. So they won by 97. I think they had the top 11 players as far. So many players played so well, and I think both teams are missing a lot of players. We saw Jeremy Cameron came in for his first game this year, and he kicked, I think, 3 goals, maybe 2. So that was good for 3 goals, 2 for Jeremy Cameron. So it was really good for Geelong, and it's a little bit disheartening for someone that's looking to be a premiership contender to lose by 97 points. But I said this in the Supercoach episode, West Coast have so many players to come back in. I think it's like 5 or and a Norm Smith medalist being Luke Shuey, and then they've got Liam Ryan, Shannon Hearn, Jeremy McGovern, who got injured in this game, as well as Liam Ryan. So they've got a lot of really, really, really quality players coming back into their team. So I wouldn't be too upset, but obviously no one wants to lose by 97, and it's really not a good thing.
Yeah, and oddly enough, Mitch Duncan, the leading goal kicker in a side with Tom Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron, which I don't think anyone would expect. But yeah, as you said, don't be too disheartened, Eagles fans. You've got the derby this week and a chance to bounce back against the Dockers, who have actually been pretty impressive. But that should be a good game and is shaping up to be. And we hope there's a crowd there. Obviously, the 3-day lockdown doesn't assist that. But yeah, Geelong in full strength, and the Eagles, similarly to the Giants, undermanned. The next game, it was at the same time, and the Suns by 40 points over the Swans.
Yeah, so I think this I think tells a little bit about both teams. Gold Coast, it's only their second win of the year, but it was a really good one coming up against a team that's only lost one game for the year, and winning by 40 points. But I think it also speaks a little bit to how good Sydney really are. I'd still take Carlton over them. I'd probably take St Kilda, even though they've been pumped a bunch of times this year. West Coast aren't in the top 8 at the moment, but I think they're still better than them. Whilst they've started really well, and whilst they've got some really good young kids, I don't think they were as good as their 4-0 start said.
Yeah, Took Miller, 36 disposals. Noah Anderson, 34, and David Swallow, 31. But Ben King starred with 5 goals. and he looks to be the key forward of the future. Max King as well. Those King brothers shaping up to be amazing footballers. But for the Swans, there was many inexperienced players who looked tired, and the rookies particularly. Errol Goulden, who's fallen out of a bit of form. Obviously, his first 2 games were extremely impressive, but since then, fallen off a little bit. But I guess that's just the inexperience. The Blues now up to you, Zave. Lost by 18 points against the Lions side, and similarly to Josh Dunkley, we hope Lockie Neal gets well soon.
Yeah, I think this game, it's a little bit of Carlton of old. I think we really, really had a dip. And a lot of our players looked, and you could see that they were trying a lot more than what happened against Port Adelaide. But
Yeah.
the thing that really speaks to me is we won 3 of the 4 quarters. In the first quarter, we outscored them. We outscored them in the third, and we outscored them in the fourth. But we got pumped in the second quarter, and we gave up quick goal after goal after goal after goal. And that's what I mean when I said Carlton of old. And as a Carlton fan, I'm so used to giving up runs of like 5, 6, sometimes even 7 goals in a row. So it really hurts, and it's just like quick 10-minute patches that can really, really hurt your team and ultimately cost you the victory, which it did this week. But there's one person in particular that I want to talk about, and that's Harry Mackay. So he kicked, I think, 6 goals, 2 in this game, and I'm talking about a guy that's 23 years of age, and as of Saturday night was leading the Coleman medal. So he's kicked 22 for the year, and he's on track to kick 80. So he's been very, very good. He's only 23 years of age, but similar to both the King boys, he's 204 centimeters and an elite athlete. He can run and jump with the best of them. So when he's jumping at full height, there's no one that can really get to where he's getting to the ball. And he's got hands that are sticky as hell, and everything that he touches seems to come down, and it seems to be a mark. And we know he's had some set shot issues, and if he can sort that out, I think Taylor Walker might have a really big rival going for the Coleman medal, especially if Carlton can start to win some games.
Any issues with his routine of snapping?
Well, I think it's more issues with his routine period. I know Matthew Lloyd, who's one of the best set shots the game's ever seen, has had some criticisms of Harry Mackay's routine, and that he talks about people like Mitch Georgiadis, who anywhere on the field they mark the ball, they know exactly what they're going to do. Whereas when Mackay marks the ball, it looks like he's like stuck in 2 different minds. We've seen him kick from the exact same spot. We've seen him kick drop punts, and we've seen him kick snaps. So I think I'd definitely be looking to work on it. But yeah, I mean, when you're 20 out straight in front, you probably shouldn't be snapping it. But if it goes in, then it doesn't really matter. But we know he's had a lot of problems with his set shot goal kicking. So
Hugh McCluggage was probably the man of the match and the most dominant player. 33 disposals, 5 clearances, and 5 inside 50, well supported by Jared Lyons and Dane Zorko. But great performance by the Lions. I wouldn't be too disappointed if I was a Blues supporter. I mean, the Lions are coming off a preliminary final loss and are in great form once again after I guess they are in great form again after a slow start. They've won 2 on the trot, and possibly winning against Port this week should be a great clash up at the Gabba. Down at the G, it was the Tigers and the Ds, and funnily enough, or fittingly enough, the ball ended in Nathan Jones's hand, 300th game for him, and he played as he usually does. He was a bull. He just went straight at the ball, and the Demons are mighty impressive. Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, the ones that stand out behind Max Gawn, who was extremely prominent. But the Tigers, I really don't know where to position them. I mean, they've struggled early on, but they do have some positives. Unfortunately, Dustin Martin missing this week, and 13 Richmond players had disposal efficiency worse than 65%, which I don't think is something you want to look at as a stat.
There's a few players I really want to talk about. The first being Nate Jones, as you said. He's now played 300 games, which is outside of the 400-game achievement, which almost no one gets. It's the pinnacle of longevity. Carlton have one coming up into the future, coming up in a couple of weeks. Mark Murphy, I think he's up to 298 games, and he'll be looking to get to his 300. But it's the pinnacle of longevity, and it's an incredible thing. But Melbourne were really, really good. Max Gawn, as you said, Clayton Oliver, Petrarca, the usual suspects. But Christian Salem was really, really good this week. And the person I really want to talk about, Luke Jackson. So he's been very good over the last 2 weeks. We know he's got the rucking ability, and he actually rucked for a fair bit in this game, as well as managing to hit the scoreboard. So, yeah, with his 2 goals. But they've got Sam Wiedemann and Ben Brown in the reserves who can't even get into the game. We know Sam get into their team. We know Sam Wiedemann 6, and I think Brown 7, and I think Brown kicked 3 as well. So both of them are playing really good football, but Luke Jackson's rucking ability and ability to hit the scoreboard and freeing up Max Gawn to go around the ground has been too good to knock out of the team, and he won't be getting knocked out this week. And then the other one, Tom McDonald, I think he's had a really, really underrated season, kicking 3 again this week, and he's found ways to. As I've said it in the past, but I don't think Melbourne has had the best connection with their key forwards this year, and I think that's the same this year. But he's found a way to get the ball for himself. He had 22 touches last week and 18 touches this week, so he's been really good.
Yeah, and Melbourne are the best team in the league at defending inside 50s, and they exploited the Tigers. They were very good at it. But the next game was almost reminiscent of last year. Fremantle and North Melbourne going at it with no crowd down in Perth.
Yeah, so again, I'm not sure who it speaks more about. Fremantle get the 51-point victory, but North Melbourne get the 51-point loss. So it's really, really not the best start you'd like as a North Melbourne fan with a percentage of under 46. So, yeah, it's not great for them. But good win for Fremantle, good little percentage booster.
Yeah, and Luke Davies-Uniacke looked a little uncomfortable, which was odd to see. He's a great player, but let's not underestimate the Dockers. They were exceptional, and David Mundy, who continues to defy his birth certificate, I think we can say he's been outstanding.
Yeah, you've said it every week, but this week again, he's gotten better and better, and I think at the moment he's an All-Australian for sure. I think this week he had 30 touches and 3 goals, so he's been incredible all year.
8 clearances, mind you, by the way. Nat Fyfe was just as influential, 34 disposals and 13 score involvements, while Caleb Serong had a career high, 35 touches in a 51-point win, as you mentioned. And yeah, North percentage the worst in the league, and the next worst was St Kilda's, and we'll get to that soon. But the next game was probably the most entertaining game I've watched in a long time, Hawthorn and Adelaide, and they just went goal for goal. They slowed down in the last quarter. It was very intense, and Hawthorn managing to come behind from about 6 goals down to win a close one down at UTAS.
Yeah, I think there are a few things that you can pick out from this game. I think O'Brien played in the back line, which looked to be his position, to be honest. I think he's been really, really, really poor over this year, but this week he was really, really good, and he won a crucial one-on-one in the last couple of minutes, which ultimately won them the game. But both the young guns, Cozzy, who's the rising star, 5 goals, 3, that was really, really good. And then Phil Thorpe as well. And just on Cozzy, I think he took 8 or 9 marks, 8 marks inside 50.
Yeah.
And a list of Hawthorn players taking 7 marks plus inside 50 in the last 15 years is David Hale, Jack Gunston, Jared Roughhead, and Lance Franklin. So he joined some elite company there, and he took 8, not 7. So it's virtually an unheard of thing, and he did really, really well.
Which is exceptional for him because his confidence needed a boost, and he kicked 6 in the preseason. So it's good to see that he's bringing that form back. And Riley Thilthorpe, take a bow. I've been practicing that name. He kicked 5 goals in a debut. And unfortunately, the Crows lost after kicking 15 straight, which I believe is a record. And yeah, unluckily for them, they went down by 3 points. But as you said, for the Hawks, Kajitsky, outstanding. But they do need to watch similarly to Carlton, the surges forward in certain quarters. I know Hawthorn allowed a second quarter burst, much like Carlton. So something to keep an eye on for the Hawks, but nonetheless a great victory for them. Second last game of the round was Anzac Day, and take a bow, Darcy Parish.
Yeah, so Collingwood lost again, and I don't think they were that bad. I think this is the best I've seen Essendon play for over a year, I think. They won by 24 points to a Collingwood team that I don't think underperformed. As you said, Darcy Parish take a bow, 42 touches and 2 goals was incredible. Dyson Heppel racked up the 29, 34 for Zach Merritt, and Tipper kicked 5 goals as well. So a really good team effort from Essendon, and they stood up on the big stage.
They did, and really the only problem for the Bombers was Cale Hooker, who was unfortunately beaten by Darcy Cameron, and 6 disposals for Hooker, which is unlike him this year. He's been brilliant in their forward line, but as you said, the Bombers was very cohesive as a whole, and they're just improving. The 2 wins over Collingwood and St Kilda, but obviously a close loss to Sydney, so they could be 3-3. Instead, they're 2-4, but their rebuild is certainly off to a great start. And the final game of the round, I'll let you rip into the Saints. But the Power, very, very good.
So the Saints, I've said it before, they've had one of the hardest schedules in the league, but it looks like they turn their heels up a little bit and they don't even try, to be honest. They're 16th in the league. They got 2 wins, one of which was a really good one against West Coast, but they've got the second worst percentage, and the way that they've lost hasn't been encouraging at all. They lost by 54 points to the Power, which isn't good. They lost by 86 points to Richmond, which is horrible. Yeah. They beat West Coast again, as I said, by 20 points, really good victory. And then they lost to Essendon, who many people don't see as a very good team, by 75. So I think it's going to be a long way back for St Kilda to eventually make their push for finals. And the reality is that after their first 6 rounds, they're going to have to win one more game than the person in 9th, because their percentage isn't going to come back enough to be better than someone that's going to have won around 100. So they've got a lot of work to do, the Saints. I'm not totally convinced that they'll get it done, but given that some of the other teams around them are looking to make the push, Carlton, West Coast, even Fremantle and Sydney. But I wouldn't totally write them off, but they've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's almost as if you could say they should be 1-5. Obviously, in the West Coast game, they were down 33 points before that amazing comeback. But ever since then, it's almost as if they've played last year's quarters lengths, 16 minutes. And Brett Ratton said something about it today, that the quarter lengths are too long. But I'd have to disagree with that. Every other team is adapting to it. But yeah, the Saints lost the uncontested possession count by 142, which is absolutely mind-blowing. If you look at the stats, 142, it's hard to get 3 ahead. And the Power's backline, I mentioned it in the Supercoach episode, the likes of Houston, Aliir, Clury, Jonas, and the debutant Frederick. So all outstanding. And the Power are looking like the real deal.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Like, as you said, they should be a 5-1, and then the one win that you're counting them for, they only won by 8 points with the controversial Ward and Dan Butler decision. So, but the uncontested stat that you read out, I think, is pretty incredible, and that sort of dominance on a particular stat just seems like 1, they're not chasing, 2, they're not defending, 3, they're not putting in enough effort. It's just a similar thing happened to Carlton against Port Adelaide last week, and I said it didn't look like they were trying. But to lose by that much in something that's such an important part of the game, and in particular such an important part of St Kilda's game, given that we know that they like to run and gun, is not very good at all.
I'll just correct you quickly. 1-5, you meant to say. You said 5-1, and I certainly don't think we're in that territory. But we'll get to this week, round 7, and certainly some great games on. And the first one of which is the Tigers and the Bulldogs.
I think this is the hardest one to pick. I'm going to pick the Bulldogs.
Yeah, same.
Because Martin isn't playing, but I said it last week. It's time for the Bulldogs to lose one. They've started 6-0. And the same goes for Melbourne. The only 2 teams that are undefeated still, and we know Richmond's in a lot of trouble. They've only won. They're only 3-3 right now. So if they lose this game, they're not even going to be in the 8 for the team that most people would have as their premiership favourites.
Yeah, the Bulldogs on a rampage. I'll tip them as well. Collingwood Gold Coast at the G, which probably is another hard game to tip.
Collingwood. I said Gold Coast were impressive with their 40-point victory, but I think Collingwood was actually pretty impressive as well, despite their loss. And they've only got the 1 win as well, so they definitely need to win one soon.
As I said, many games that look to be competitive. The next one of which is Adelaide GWS down at Adelaide Oval.
I'm going to go with GWS again. I said I wasn't going to tip them just a couple of weeks ago, and I think we tipped them 3 weeks in a row. they haven't. Oh, actually, I didn't tip them last week, but they haven't really let me down. They won against Sydney, and then they were really competitive against the Bulldogs. So I think they can get it done.
Here's a challenge: St Kilda Hawthorn.
This one, I'm going to tip the Saints because they need to win it. This is a team that most people wouldn't have as finals contenders, definitely not premiership contenders. And the Saints, if they want to make the finals, these are the teams that they have to beat.
And it's not just a 10-point win. They really need to get a huge win under their belt for not only percentage, but confidence. You know, a 40-point win they would love, and they have Gold Coast the week after, which possibly another chance to get another win under their belt. And as you said, they're the games they have to win. They lost to Freo last year and they blew a lead. One game that stands out. But yeah, hopefully the Saints can win from a biased perspective. The next game, the Lions and the Power.
Another really, really competitive game. I think these are two of the better teams in the competition. Yeah. Port Adelaide only have the one loss, but I really, really, really rate Brisbane's list. And we know they're going to be missing Lachie Neale, but I think, I'm not totally certain, but I think Jared Berry will come back in this week after his suspension. I think I want to tip Brisbane because it's in Brisbane. And because I think they're more in need of a win than Port Adelaide is, given that Port's only lost one and Brisbane's positioned 8th right now.
I think I'll go Port Adelaide. And I just realised I didn't tip Collingwood Gold Coast. I think I'm going to go with Gold Coast. I'm going to go with Adelaide, St Kilda, and then Port Adelaide. Sydney Geelong at the SCG.
I'm going to go Geelong again. I was just saying before, I think Sydney's a little bit deceiving. I don't think they're quite as good as their record shows, but I think Geelong, I think they're the real deal. I said in the preseason that they're my premiership favourites, and I'm going to stick by that, despite perhaps not having the start people expected. They're sitting in the top 4 currently, and were ultra impressive last week against West Coast. So going with Geelong.
North Melbourne, which may not be as easy as it seems. It's down at Blunston Arena.
It may not seem as easy as it seems, but I've seen absolutely nothing this year that makes me want to tip North Melbourne. So I'm going to pick Melbourne in probably a blowout, but we'll see. Hopefully North Melbourne can get a win because they really need one, both them and their fans.
And literally a blowout. The win down there is unbelievable. We saw it at UTAS. Essendon versus Carlton at the G.
So I think I said St Kilda's in a similar spot to Carlton, and I thought that coming into the season. And this week again, they're in a similar spot. I think Essendon and Hawthorn aren't really finals contenders, but Carlton, St Kilda versus Hawthorn, Carlton versus Essendon. I think it's another game that they must win. These are the sorts of teams that you need to beat. So we saw they lost to Collingwood, which is probably a team you should beat looking at their record right now. But they need to beat Essendon. They've lost 2 in a row. They need to get this win. If they lose this, they've lost to Essendon and Collingwood, which are 2 of our rivals, as well as Richmond. And then they're 2 and 5. So that's going to be a hard spot to come back from. But so I'm tipping Carlton, and I really, really hope we win because I think we really, really need it.
I'll tip Carlton too. And the final game of the round is the Western Derby, possibly without fans, but assuming that the 3-day lockdown is all that they'll have, there should be a packed house at Optus.
Yeah, I'm going to tip West Coast, but coming into last week, I thought this was a pretty easy tip, but Fremantle won by 51 points and West Coast lost by 97. So it's looking a little bit more interesting than perhaps people thought. As you said, there may be no crowd. There might be a crowd. We're not totally sure. We're AFL experts. We're not politics experts or doctors or anything like that. So, yeah. I think I'm going to tip West Coast, but it might be close.
And does Andrew Brayshaw go to Andrew Gaff?
I don't think he might play on him, but I don't think it's going to be like anything untoward because we know. Despite the big hit that Andrew Gaff put on Andrew Brayshaw, we know they caught up for coffee. I think they played golf as well. So I think they're pretty good friends despite the hit that no one really likes to see.
Still unsure if that golf rumour is true, but nonetheless, a great matchup between the two sides. That's all we have for this week. Make sure to follow the socials at sts.podcast on Instagram. Zave's running that account. And at AFL Supercoach if you're interested in fantasy Supercoach specifically. But we hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll release an NBA video soon. It's heating up. The play-in May the 18th, I believe they released a date. So something to look forward to. We hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you next time.